Hey, Floodgate family, we are back for our fourth and final installment on how to rock this job search. And I've got Heidi back, my recruiter, talent expert extraordinaire, 15 years, literally hundreds and hundreds of placements, has seen the good, has seen the bad, and is here to share it with us. And today we're going to focus on the final step in this whole job search, getting the offer. So we're going to spend a little time on there. As always, guys, please, if you comment in the LinkedIn chat for questions, we'll answer those questions at the end of this. And one of the things you can actually put in there as well, and we'll send out a poll later, is, hey, what else do you want to know about? I mean, this is the end of this series, but it doesn't mean it's the end of our knowledge. So there's other things we can pontificate on and help that it will add benefit for you to the marketplace. So, Heidi, people have worked hard and have gone through phone screens and networking and face-to-face interview, and now they get to that moment of truth, that offer stage. What's some of the things that go wrong?
Well, I think maybe we should back up a minute and just talk about.
All right, let's go a little more. You don't want to go to the negative, huh? You want to go like, hey, let's talk about what can make it go right. What are the things to make sure it's set it up smoothly? I think no negativity here. We'll get to that in a second. All right.
So I would say that, really communication is the devil's in the details, and that means communication. So, if you are a job seeker and you are close to the final step, meaning the offer, communicate early, communicate often. You need to rest on your recruiter like you never have before, and stay so close to them, asking them for constructive criticism, asking them just really open-ended questions that would help you better understand where you are. So I get a lot of questions from savvy job seekers like, Heidi, where am I in the process? I feel like I'm, kind of close to an offer, but what else do I need to do? Or where are other job seekers that are vying for this role? Where are they in the process? Am I the front person, or am I one of two or three? And that really helps you mentally get prepared for that final step. And your recruiter at that point, if you've opened up that can of worms, there's a good chance that they'll say, hey, you know what? We've got two candidates. They want to make an offer to one of you, but they're really struggling on which one of you can blank. And then that's your opportunity to step in, rise to the occasion, and be assertive to, clarify any miscommunications there have been. So communication is the answer to that question for sure.
I agree. And if you have a recruiting partner in this particular search, lean on them, be transparent, and make sure that you can find out. Because some companies, let's face it, they negotiate regularly. Some that's what it is. And some, and knowing that, and usually that communication can help you understand where it is and where they need to be. And they can help be a champion before that offer comes. So even when it arrives with what you expect, right? And
I think we'll probably get to the negotiation part in a little bit, but one other thing to make about that particular question is if your recruiter has not brought up, compensation or other important factors, this is the time. If you've already gone through 3 or 4 interviews and they've expressed to you that you're kind of close to the end, if they have not brought it up, be the first to make that move and say, hey, I think we're kind of at that point where we're getting close to the end. And where are you guys in terms of salary range? Where are you guys in terms of LTIs or whatever that kind of question mark area is, so that you're not surprised when they make an offer if it's off.
Makes total sense. So speaking about, we're going to get those are the things that go smoothly, that communication, etc. But what are some of the landmines that people don't want to step on to hear the click?
Yep. So I would say that's a really good question, and there's a lot of them.
Yep.
But 3 things come to mind. Ego is the big one. And then time and money. I already mentioned money, but if you can remember those 3 things, ego, time, and money, those are the three things that almost always go wrong if something does go wrong. So ego means that you have gotten emotionally involved in the offer stage or around that time. And there's no room for emotions at this point in the process. You've got to check your ego at the door and come into this step as objective as possible. So time means that some people think that, that they should be getting an offer tomorrow or Friday, and they need to show some grace, because employers, there's a lot of steps. Joe, you know this, that offers have to go through multiple people. It has to get authorized in different departments and finance. In a perfect world, an offer would come, a day or two after the final interview. Mm-hmm. It doesn't always. So job seekers need to be gracious and understanding that it might take a little bit longer.
And the less quote unquote cookie cutter the role is, the longer it can take, right? Because in the bigger the company, the longer it can take, because it's now they got to go to legal and then HR and but sometimes if they've hired 40 of those roles this year, those can come a little quicker. But even that, it takes longer than you think. It always does. It's a good point. Yeah.
And then the money I already talked about in the first point, but just having misconceptions or unmet expectations about comp is a huge one. I cannot tell you how many times we've had people heard these terrible stories about, these dreams of riding off into the sunset, only to find out that the employer is offering $30K below where the person thought they were going to come in at. So just, you got to communicate that early and often, ideally with your recruiter. And if you don't have one, if you have an internal touch point, that would be kind of next best.
Yeah. And being transparent of really where you've been and what your expectations can be. And I think that ego point as it relates to money is, I've seen people that know they can do better long-term, but that base is off by $5,000.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, I can't go backwards in my career. Okay, let's really look at this, right? Are you you're going to walk away from this 10, 15 year great career, great company, everything you told me over over a small portion in a short period of time.
That's a good point. I think a lot of people get hung up on what I would call kind of day one details.
Yep.
And as you said, they're missing the bigger, broader picture of this company maybe offering them a bigger runway, a company that's growing, that's expanding. So I would absolutely encourage job seekers, if you're watching this and you're interviewing, if you've been at a salary of 150, and that's where you've kind of drawn a line in the sand, be open to 125 north. Look at the big picture. Companies are leaning towards offering more on the variable end of things, especially now with COVID. They're looking for creative ways to compensate their people on performance. So be open-minded about that.
Good. Great suggestion. Now, and as you're getting into some of that negotiation, right, talking about what's possible, what's job seekers know about the world of negotiating, and how to do it right?
Well, we're all, most of the people watching this video are in sales, right? So I think that a lot of the negotiating tools that we learn in sales are absolutely applicable in the interview process. Mm-hmm. That said, a lot of it comes down to communication. Again, I keep coming back to that, but we have, I would say, half of our clients negotiate on base salary, and then the other half absolutely do not. It's just like a fact. So asking that question up front with your recruiter, or, depending on the relationship you have with the hiring manager, if you're not working with a recruiter, hey, is the salary an area where there's some wiggle room, or is that just a kind of a flat number? So early on in the process what the potential is there. If the company doesn't negotiate the salary, it's not like a closed book. It doesn't mean it's the end of the story. We've seen all kinds of creative negotiations. So variable comp, long-term incentives, RSUs, stock. I mean, there's all kinds of things, right, that could absolutely be negotiated, if not the salary.
Perfect. Yeah, it's great. Yeah, and sometimes, at a certain level for equity, not that they don't love you anymore. It's just that's, you can't blow up that, that band and equity and HR, et cetera, is trying to maintain that within a larger corporation. So
yeah,
sometimes it is what it is in that space. So
the other thing, one more note about that, Joe. When you are negotiating, I think, again, going back to being in sales, using a lot of presumptuous we statements to communicate that you've already mentally and emotionally committed helps the hiring manager or whoever that person is on the other end of the conversation, helps them bridge that gap, right? Mm-hmm. So instead of saying this is kind of a me versus you thing and this is what I want, and it's more than what you're willing to offer, no one comes out and says it like that. But a lot of times that's kind of the takeaway that an employer gets. So instead of that approach, taking a more, hey, my spouse and I have sat down and we've sketched out, our living expenses. And this is kind of the number that we've landed on. Is there anything that we can do to get there? Whether that's, a spot bonus, or an MBO for the first year, or, just using that creative language of, can we get there together? It goes so far with employers, and they really become a lot more open to working with you when you've mentally committed. And now it's just a matter of figuring out those, kind of little details.
Yep, exactly. And, again, if you're using an external recruiter, that recruiter can be really that mouthpiece to keep you out of that awkward conversation and kind of get some better transparency as well.
Right.
And help bring the parties together. So we do that all the time, don't we, Heidi?
Yes.
Yeah. So speaking about, usually when that negotiation sometimes happens is there's been nothing, crickets for months, and then all of a sudden multiple offers come at once, right? We've seen that happen as well. So what should people do?
Well, first they should celebrate, because that's a great place to be in. There's a lot of people that would love to be in that boat. So just pat yourself on the back for getting that far. I might even tease that question out a little bit, because I think the more, if that's okay, Joe, I think
for sure.
More common scenario is when you've got two offers that are maybe spaced out by you get one offer and you're thinking you might get another offer.
Correct. Yeah.
Generally, as it plays out, it's usually your second or your third choice comes first, which is just Murphy's Law. Mm-hmm. And you're kind of waiting for your first choice. So let's tease that one out first and then maybe come back to that question.
Perfect. That's great.
So I think if you are interviewing with more than one company, and the second or third choice seems to be closing up faster, meaning coming to that final stage, communicate with your number one choice as soon as possible. And again, you got to use a lot of tact and finesse when you do that, because you don't want to come across like you're game playing or you're jockeying for, preferential treatment. But what you're saying is something like, hey, Joe, I'm so excited about this opportunity with FloodGate Medical. As you probably knew, I am interviewing with other companies. One of the other companies I'm interviewing with is getting close to an offer. FloodGate's my first choice. So I just wanted to be open with you about my timing. Is there anything that we can do to kind of expedite our interview process? Something like that. So you're letting them know that this is your first choice, but you're being courted by someone else. So that way, what you want to get is apples and apples. You want to get both companies aligned at the same time so that you can evaluate both offers simultaneously. So a lot of times people don't say that, though. I don't.
They keep it quiet, and they just hope the timing works out. And they're just not transparent, right?
I think they're afraid to turn someone off. I think they're concerned or maybe insecure that would come across as entitled.
They're no longer interested, or et cetera, right?
But there's been more times than I'd like to count where I've had people that said, hey, I just took another offer. This was really my first choice, but I got this one first. And it's like, well, why didn't you say something?
Right.
It's not that I'm a magician, but I could certainly have done some things potentially to expedite this process so you could have 2 offers. So maybe that's a good segue into the question you actually asked.
Right. Yeah, now you get the multiple offers. So when you have them and they're staggered, be transparent. But I will say, reiterate the point is, it's how you do it. This is really what I can see myself winning here. I really want that opportunity, but I have but I just received an offer from a company that's, that it would be interesting for me. So is there a way we can move forward? But you do it where they know you're not pulling out, you're still interested, still exciting. But you do that, it's the best move.
Yeah. So if you are in that desirable spot to have multiple offers at once, first of all, know that timing is of the essence. Employers, when they make an offer, it's like Cinderella. When the clock strikes midnight, you're going to turn into a pumpkin. So don't sit on an offer. They do expire, and companies grow increasingly uninterested the longer you take. Right?
It shows your level of interest.
Right. So if you're seriously considering 2 offers, I would maybe go back to the old pros and cons list and jot out, what are the objective qualities about each of these roles that gets me excited. Try to get those emotions checked and go through, travel, right? Let's look at product. Am I excited about this product? Let's look at runway. What's my potential to grow and further my career? Compensation, right? That's kind of the big one that we talk about a lot, but there's all these other factors. So I would do kind of like a checklist of pros and cons for both opportunities, and then talk to your spouse or other, special people in your life and run it by them and get their input.
Yeah, and Heidi, in our programs, we actually even have a scorecard that we recommend before you start. Rank the things you want that are important, put a weight by it. So that way, when you get to that point and you have multiple things you're pursuing, you can kind of put, how does that rate against this? 1 to 10, and you come out with a truly numerical score and go, man, that one's actually 10 points higher. And this is what I said when I started, not with what you said now in the heat of the moment. So be happy to send that out to anyone that would like that scorecard if that would help them in that decision. But that really taking that emotion aside, looking at the logic, looking at that full long-term picture and making that choice, right?
Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So hopefully that has given you, see if we've got any questions from our FloodGate family here. So, all right, so hold on a second. You touched on a little bit earlier, right? But what's easier, what are some of the things if salary and the monetary is not something able to negotiate? What are some of the things you've seen that they had the most wiggle room in, if you would say?
Again, this is a tough one because I think there's companies that negotiate salaries and there's companies that don't, and they rarely switch from one to the other. So I'd first say it's probably easiest in general to negotiate the salary than it is the variable. I think variables are generally corporate-wide plans that are not manipulated or tweaked for individuals. So I would start with a salary. If you don't get anywhere there, probably not the variable, but I would try to push for some kind of a spot bonus, sign-on bonus, some kind of an NBO, or a guarantee, and have specific evidence as to why that would be relevant and appropriate for you.
Yeah, I would agree. And if stocks are available, if they do have shares available, there's already an enhancement of that package is always also something as well. But I agree that spot bonus allows them to not have to break the corporate programs, but be able to make it that first year decision for you easier. So that's a great suggestion. Looks like we got someone from Lisa here who's asking, when applying on a company website with or without a recruiter that suggests your compensation. What's your suggestion on what to put for base and additional commission? Obviously leery about underselling or overselling themselves. So what would you recommend on that aspect?
I would put just really vanilla numbers in those ATS systems. They're not actually using those. They're not going to come back and say, well, you said this when you applied, 2 months ago. That's just a software requirement that a lot of companies have. So I would stick, Lisa, with something really vanilla, round numbers, very conservative. You don't want to get knocked out. Your hiring manager is not going to ever even see those numbers. So I wouldn't worry about it.
Yeah. But I think overall, when you're communicating that question and expectations, which come up quite a bit, don't inflate it, because I've seen people inflate it and then the company go, well, they're not going to be happy here because, we estimate the first year is going to be $20,000 less than that. When in reality, they inflated it $20,000, right? So, so don't be on that side. And then secondly, I would say just, be honest, be truthful, know what that number is. This is what it is. And if I need to move, I'm going to need to make more, or, this is what I have done and I don't have a role right now. Mm-hmm. But here's what interests me. I think that transparency, because again, you're going to a career, not a job for 2 months, right? You want to start that relationship on trust. Is a cover letter with resumes always recommended when applying for jobs? So kind of going back to that beginning, what's your theory? This is from Darce Schultz there, asked a question. So what do you think about the cover letter there, Heidi?
Oh, Darce, you need to go back and watch our video 1 and get caught up. We got into some juicy nuggets of that. But no, cover letter is not even really relevant. I wouldn't even waste your time. Nobody reads them.
I was a hiring manager for years. I never looked at a cover letter. I never looked at one as a recruiter when I get it. So I would agree with that.
I would consider your about section on your LinkedIn profile, sort of your 2020 cover letter. So any effort that you might have put into your cover letter, put into the about section on your LinkedIn profile. It's a good use of time.
Excellent. Well, great, guys. Heidi, thank you so much for this great webinar. We do have a couple things. All of these are on our website. That's at kit.floodgatemedical.com, or go to floodgatemedical.com and you can navigate to it. They're up there, so check that out. We also have Floodgate Finder that can help you know what jobs are coming up from Floodgate and be able to refer friends. I mean, we did a survey recently where it found 72% of the survey respondents knew somebody who'd lost their job in 45 days. So there's a lot of people that need some referrals out there. So great platform to be able to help them out. And I know Heidi's underway with their boot camp, helping a lot of people really understand and bringing that group sense together. So again, if you're interested in that, we're going to be starting another one in 3 weeks. Message at the bottom, ping Heidi. We'll get you looped into our boot camp opportunities. And if there's any way we can help you at all, please let us know. And other topics, please give us a message. We're always looking for great ideas. So thanks. Have a great day. Good luck on your job search.
Yeah.